what has come to become really clear to me in the last few years of my life is that there really are two selves within each and every one of us. Muktananda called the ego, the part of us that has edge got out, ego, edge got out, the false self. And the false self is this part of us that is not authentic. It is the ego. This false self is the part of us that is always trying to win, trying to own things, trying to prove itself. We send our kids off to school and we tell them, be ahead of everybody else, win, no matter what, and so on. And they have a tendency to believe that who they are these bodies, even though the body they're in is going to change and you'll never be able to find it again. And then there's within each and every one of us a higher self. And this higher self is really the soul. It's really the spirit. It's really God. But these two selves are sort of constantly they're not at war so much with each other, but there's this battleground that we have within us. I'll give you an example of it in my own life. Somebody on the internet, a guy named Watkins, has put out a list, because there's lists for everything. The 100 most spiritually influential people alive. And they put out this list, 100 people. And they rank from number 1 to 100. And I'm on the list. I'm one of the, thank you. Not only am I on the list, but I am, according to this list, and they've got all this criteria of how you get on this list, I am the third most spiritually influential person alive. How about that, huh? So the spiritual part of myself, my soul, the higher place within myself, says to me, this is not relevant. You're not any better than anybody else just because somebody has put you on a list. In fact, you shouldn't even know about that list. And perhaps the people who are most spiritually influential aren't even on that list and don't even want to be on that list because they don't care about those kind of rankings and comparisons and so on. But then there's the ego over here that says, what do you mean number 3? Well, what's going on with that? And who are these people who are more spiritually influential than you? And how are you going to take them down? So there's this sort of constant thing about it shouldn't make any difference. Who I am is the same as everyone else. We all come from the same place, and we all return back to the same place. But then the ego says, let's see, the 2 people ahead of me on this list, one of them is Eckhart Tolle, but he had Oprah. And she's only number 8 on the list anyway. And he got on there every week, and that's not fair. And then there's the Dalai Lama. And I figure Eckhart and I maybe can get together and take the Dalai Lama out of this thing. Or maybe I should align with the Dalai Lama. And anyway, the ego is doing this number on us. But there's also the part of us that is divine. And this is the place that I'm addressing here in this program. There's a quote from Joel Goldsmith. Joel wrote so many great books. A Parenthesis in Eternity was one of them. And this is what Joel said. He said, then there are those who reach a stage in which they realize the futility of this constant striving and struggling for the things that perish, things which after they are obtained prove to be shadows. It is at this stage that some persons turn from this seeking for things in the outer realm to a seeking for them from God. And that's who you tuned into today on this program. I have left this pursuing things and money and fame and winning and being better than others It's taken me a while, but it has been a powerful journey. As a matter of fact, I had said to my ex-wife, I said, can you imagine? Did you ever, in your wildest dreams, could you ever have imagined that you would be married to the third most spiritually influential person alive? And she said, she said, they didn't call me when they made that list. And she said also, she said, I don't want to upset you, dear, but you're not in my wildest dreams. I said, well, all right. So moving to this higher place is really understanding that in the second chapter of Wishes Fulfilled, I call it the higher self. And it gets defined very specifically by this great Bulgarian teacher. His name was Omram Mikhail Ivanov. And he was teaching what's called the initiatic sciences. And I have had his teachings show up in my life in a very powerful way. I've studied his writing. I've listened to many of his recorded lectures that took place back in the 50s and 60s and 70s. And I brought a quote of his that I'd like to share with you. Our higher self is perfect, omniscient, and almighty, a fragment of God himself, a pure, transparent, luminous quintessence. I love that. I love great writing like that. And that within each and every one of us, there is a place inside of each and every one of us that is all-knowing, that is almighty, that is actually a fragment of God. He then went on to say, the Creator has planted within every creature a fragment of himself, a spark, a spirit of the same nature of himself. And thanks to this spirit, every creature can become a creator. And this means that instead of always waiting for their needs to be satisfied by some external source, human beings can absolutely work inwardly by means of their own thoughts, their own will, and their own spirit to obtain nourishing, healing elements that they need. This is why he said to all of us, the teaching I bring to you is of the Spirit of the Creator and not of matter. A spark that is in each and every one of us.
Becoming a spiritual being is synonymous with being a miracle worker and knowing the bliss of real magic. The differences between people who are non-spiritual or physical-only beings and those that I call spiritual beings are dramatic. I use the terms spiritual and non-spiritual in the sense that a spiritual being has a conscious awareness both of the physical and the invisible dimension, while the non-spiritual being is only aware of the physical domain. Here are 12 beliefs and practices for you to cultivate as you develop your abilities to manifest miracles in your life. Number 1, a spiritual being knows that there are other senses beyond the 5 physical senses. The non-spiritual being lives exclusively within the 5 senses, believing that if you cannot see, touch, smell, hear, or taste it, then it simply doesn't exist. As you work toward becoming a spiritual being as well as a physical being, you begin to live more and more consciously within the invisible realm. Hence, a whole new world opens up. Number 2, the non-spiritual being believes we are alone in the universe. The spiritual being knows he or she is never alone. A spiritual being is comfortable with the idea of having teachers, observers, and divine guidance available at any time. For the non-spiritual being, this is all hogwash. This is a physical-only universe to the non-spiritual being, and the goal is to manipulate and control the physical world in any way that we can. Spiritual beings know that they are not alone, and that they can use their own divine guidance to become miracle makers in their own lives. Number 3, the non-spiritual being is focused on external power. The spiritual being is focused on personal empowerment. External power is all located in the dominance of and control over the physical world. This is the power of war and military might, the power of laws and organization, the power of business and stock market games. By contrast, the spiritual being is focused on empowering himself and others to higher and higher levels of consciousness and achievement. It is true empowerment to know that one can live in the world with others who have different points of view and have no need to control or vanquish them as victims. Once you no longer need to dominate others, to acquire more stuff, or to control the environment around you, you will have shifted your focus from external power to personal empowerment. Number 4. The non-spiritual being feels separated and distinct from all others, a being unto himself. The spiritual being knows that he is connected to all others and lives his life as if each person he meets shares being human with him. When a person feels himself to be separate from all others, he becomes more self-centered and much less concerned about the problems of others. The spiritual being knows that we are all connected and is able to see the fullness of God in each person with whom he makes contact in his life. Being connected means that the need for conflict and confrontation is eliminated. Number 5. The non-spiritual being believes exclusively in a cause-effect interpretation of life. The spiritual being knows that there is a higher power working in the universe beyond mere cause and effect. The non-spiritual being lives exclusively in the world of the physical, where cause and effect rules. The spiritual being goes beyond Newton's physics and lives in an entirely different realm. The spiritual being knows that thoughts come out of nothingness, and then in our dream state, when we are in pure thought, cause and effect play no role whatsoever. Number 6. The non-spiritual being is motivated in life by achievement, performance, and acquisitions. The spiritual being is motivated by ethics, serenity, and quality of life. For the non-spiritual being, the focus is on learning for the purpose of high grades, getting ahead, and acquiring possessions. For the spiritual being, success is defined by aligning oneself with one's purpose. The spiritual being knows that living purposefully involves serving in a loving fashion. While the spiritual being will achieve and perform at high levels and even acquire many possessions, it is not the end-all principle that guides his life. Number 7. The non-spiritual being has no place for the practice of meditation. The spiritual being cannot imagine life without it. For the non-spiritual being, answers are sought by working hard, struggling, persevering, setting goals, and in competing in a dog-eat-dog world. The spiritual being knows the enormous power of the practices of meditation. He knows that meditation makes him more alert and able to think more clearly. For the non-spiritual being, this is perceived as an escape from reality. But for the spiritual being, it is an introduction to a whole new reality that includes an opening in your life that will lead you to miracle making. Number 8. For the non-spiritual being, the concept of intuition can be reduced to a bunch of haphazard thoughts. For the spiritual being, intuition is viewed as guidance, and this inner insight is never taken lightly or ignored. You know from your own experience that when you ignore your intuitive proddings, you end up being sorry or having a hard lesson show up in your life. To the non-spiritual person, intuition is often ignored or shunned in favor of behaving in habitual ways. The spiritual being strives to increase consciousness concerning their intuition. They pay attention to their invisible messages and know deep within that there is something working here that is much more than a coincidence. Number 9. The non-spiritual being hates evil and is determined to eradicate that which he believes to be evil. The spiritual being knows that everything that he hates and fights weakens him, and all that he is for empowers him. The non-spiritual being knows what he hates, and much of his energy, both mental and physical, is devoted to fighting what he perceives to be bad or evil. Spiritual beings do not order their lives to be against anything. They work for what they are for, rather than fighting what they are against. When you fight evil by employing the methods of hatred and violence, you yourself become a part of the hatred and violence of evil itself, despite the rightness of your position in your own mind. Real magic occurs in your life when you have eliminated the hatred that is in your life, even the hatred that you have against hatred. Number 10. The non-spiritual person feels no sense of responsibility to the universe. Therefore, he has not developed a reverence for life. The spiritual being has a reverence for life that goes to the essence of all beings. The spiritual being behaves as if the God in all life mattered, and he feels a sense of responsibility to the universe. Miracle-making capability comes out of a strong reverence for all life, including your own, and therefore, in order to know real magic, you must learn to think and act in ways consistent with being a reverent spiritual being. Number 11. The non-spiritual being finds himself laden down with grudges, hostility, and the need for revenge. The spiritual being has no room in his heart for such impediments to miracle-making and real magic. The spiritual being knows that all spiritual masters have talked about the importance of forgiveness. Forgiveness is an act of the heart. If you fill your inner invisible self with bitterness and revenge toward others, you'll leave no room for the harmony and love that are necessary in order for you to experience real magic in your life. And finally, number 12. The non-spiritual being knows that there are real-world limitations, and that while there may be some evidence that miracles exist, they are viewed as random happenings for a few fortunate others. The spiritual being believes in miracles and his own unique ability to receive loving guidance and to experience a world of real magic.
Experiencing that thrill of passion in your body is an indication that you're fulfilling a destiny you may have signed up for even before you merged into the world of being from non-being. The opening lines of the Old Testament convey that God and good are essentially synonymous. So know that when you feel good, that's akin to saying that you feel God. The presence of passion, or feeling good, is also the same as having God awakened within yourself. Think of this awakened presence as something you need to continuously pay attention to and nurture in order to prevent it from either going back to sleep or disappearing entirely. In other words, you must keep this passion ever present on the front burner of your life. I encourage you to spend as much energy as you can reaching out and helping other people. Recall Lao Tzu's message that your willingness to receive blessings is related to your ability to give them. I know that I feel the greatest passion when I'm in the process of serving others. Giving money to individuals to finance dreams that otherwise would go unfulfilled, or sending books and CDs to hospitals, prisons, libraries, and schools is always a thrill for me. Even taking my 92-year-old mom out for dinner, just the two of us, sends waves of pleasure down my spine. Giving to others is a great first step in finding your passion. Recently, for instance, I had the opportunity to spend a morning in a first-grade classroom. I was invited to read Unstoppable Me, one of the 4 children's books I've co-authored with Christina Tracy. Interacting with the children and hearing the questions they asked filled me with enthusiasm, but what I saw in their teacher, Miss Wimmer, was equally thrilling. Here's a woman living her passion every day through serving those first graders. She radiates her joy in nurturing their love of learning in all of her students, and she glows with excitement as she talks about each of the boys and girls whom she feels honored to teach. Her students simply adore this wonderful educator, and who can blame them? She takes them on after-school field trips, has them write their own illustrated books, plans elaborate graduation ceremonies, gets down on the floor with them to instruct them on a hands-on perspective. Every subject is taught from a creative point of view. Ms. Wimmer is also more than willing to spend her own money to provide experiences for the kids in her classroom who wouldn't otherwise have the opportunity due to budgetary considerations. There simply are no limits to what she'll do to give her students an ideal first-grade experience. This is passionate nurturing. Rather than using our days to just go through the motions and feel a sense of ennui, we all need to go through life as enthusiastically as Ms. Wimmer does. After all, how can we expect to find any passion if we're seemingly stuck in a dull world that typifies our daily existence? We must discover the joy and satisfaction that comes from feeding our passion. It's a much better idea than hauling out that tiresome excuse that life is boring. It may be helpful to think of your passion as the presence of the creative source inside you. Talk to this invisible yet tangible presence within and thank it for never abandoning you. Go for walks with it and even imagine holding hands with it. Ask it questions and listen to what it has to say, making mental notes of how it's directing you. Feel enormous gratitude for the reality of this presence and allow it to guide you in any way it wishes. Always remember that your passion is evidence of God within, and you can make it your own very private experience. You don't need to share your inner stirrings with anyone you feel might rain on your parade. Rather, make a promise to yourself that you'll pay attention to your passion, that you'll do at least one small thing daily to make it your reality. Even if you only do a silent meditation on keeping your dream alive, write one paragraph of the book you've been envisioning. Make one phone call exploring how to get into that business you fantasized about running, or put a few dollars aside to finance your future endeavors. Do it. Pay attention to your passion. Never ignore it. Talk to it, so that you don't have to drag out excuses or explain why it's always impossible for you to see and follow your own bliss. Keep in mind that your passion must be fed in order to survive. It will never let you down if you nurture it. How could it? It is God within you, and with God all things are possible, and no excuses are necessary. Here's a few suggestions for living a passion-filled life. First, do something every day to keep the awakened God within from falling back asleep. Remember that your feelings of excitement are the result of the way you think. And when your thoughts harmonize with source energy, you begin to feel your passion. Therefore, you must keep a constant watch on your mental activity. Maintain a journal to record what fires you up. The more you write, the more you invite passion to live within you. Go on the internet and view sites that talk about and promote ideas you feel enthusiastic about. Telephone or email someone out there who shares the same vision as you. Open a private bank account that contains seed money to fund a passion. Whatever you do, remind yourself that this is your passion, and you're feeding and nurturing it every day. As this becomes your habituated way of being, you'll see the universe cooperating and offering experiences that match your desires. And secondly, develop a sense of awe that leads to the creation of passion by beginning to look at everything as though you're seeing it for the first time. Don't let the concept of boredom even creep into your thoughts. I've participated in thousands of interviews of all types over the past 4 decades. Frequently I've been asked, "Don't you find it boring to be asked the same questions over and over again?" My response, which comes from my heart, says, "I've never been interviewed by this person at this time on this subject under these circumstances before." Thus, every interview is a brand new, joyful endeavor, and this keeps my passion alive. I do the same kind of thinking when I'm about to give a lecture for the 10th time in 2 weeks. Each presentation before a live audience is a novel experience. Look at your entire life this way. Make love to your spouse like it's the very first time. Read to your children like it's the first time. Go for your daily run like it's the first time. Every new moment is a gift from the all-knowing Tao. So when you act as if each experience and moment is a fresh one, you'll feel the passion I'm attempting to convey in this book. And third, take a 5-minute time out today to repeat the following affirmation, quote, "I invite the presence of God to be with me in the form of my passion," unquote. This reminds you that every moment of excitement you feel is evidence that you have divine guidance in the moment. By holding on to it, you'll enter the excuses be gone zone. As Thomas Aquinas observed, quote, "True peace consists in not separating ourselves from the will of God," unquote.
People say to me, "I don't have time to meditate." I say, "How many times a day do you stop at a red light?" 20, 30, 40 times a day? When you stop at a red light, your car has come to a halt. Your body has come to a halt. Your mind is still in chatter mode, telling you if the guy ahead of you would have only gone through on your yellow that you paid for, that you'd be halfway to work right now. And this is a person in front of me that's driving slow who's looking for an opportunity to stop and hoping that the light is going to turn red. You've been behind people like that who have their brake lights on as they approach a green light. Those are divine masters. They have been sent to you by God. So when you have an opportunity to stop, if your car hasn't stopped and empty, and your body has stopped and it's going to be there for a minute or two, then your mind also, if it could join your body and your car in stopping, you would have 2 minutes in which to meditate and get quiet. And you could just close your eyes and repeat the sound of God. 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 You did this very soft for 2 minutes. There's always somebody behind you to let you know when your 2 minutes are up. They'll do it instantly. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And off you go. And pretty soon, you're one of those drivers with your foot on the brake, hoping that a light will turn red so that you'll be able to connect to God. And you find opportunities in the day wherever you are. And the more there is sound around you that interferes with it, the more you are tested to see if in fact you can bypass that and not hear those noises. They're my tests all the time. Leaf blowers, you know, these funny little machines that spew out fumes and sound everywhere, have always been a very pet problem for me. I see them, and instantly I was like, why not just... The wind puts the leaves where they belong. You blow them, blow them, blow them. 15 minutes later, the wind comes along, and they're right back where God wanted them. And my wife always says, it's your test. I say, stop with that your test crap. I don't want to hear it. It's what you teach. It's your test. And she's right. Then the leaf blowers leave, and the tree cutters come along. When the tree cutters leave, and the trimmers come along. And the trimmers leave, and somebody's coming along to grind up cement. And other trucks go by. And it's like an endless parade of loud noise. And you have an option to go within and to just see if you can push that out and come and connect to God. And silence becomes something that you not only love and appreciate, but that you begin to crave. And it isn't that you're craving peace from the noise, you're craving the indivisible place within you that gets you to know God. It's the only time in all of your experience here in this human form that you will ever be close to God, because you can't divide silence. And that's why meditation is so important. Many of you know that I have a great teacher who came to me from India. His name is Sri Guruji. He asked me to teach a meditation. The meditation is called Japa, J-A-P-A. And I've been teaching this meditation for years and years now. Some of you, I'm sure, do it here. And it's nothing more than the repetition of the sound of the name of the divine. The sound that's in the name for God. And language is what originally was created from ancient mystics who heard sounds within them and then gave symbols to them that we call language today. And the sound that they heard within them that is representative of God, whether it's Jehovah, Krishna, Allah, God, Yahweh, Kali, Durga, Ra, the ancient names of God all have the sound of Ah. And the repetition of the sound of Ah, combined with putting your energy or attention on what you'd like to manifest, to which you are already connected. Remember, if God is everywhere, there's no place that God is not, then God is in you. And if God is in you and everywhere else, then God is in all that you perceive to be missing from your life. So that realigning your intention with this to which you are disconnected in your mind only, but are already connected in spirit to, allows you to attract it into your life. It's the basis of manifesting your destiny. And the use of this sound, which is the intermediate energy vibration between the world of form, the solid, and the world of spirit, the invisible. There's an intermediate dimension called sound. And this application of sound literally attracts from the world of spirit into the world of the material through the process of this thing called japa, the repetition of the sound of the name of the divine.
It's this constant battle, and I read all the time. I listen to your CDs constantly in the car. I don't listen to music anymore. My kids hate me for it, but I listen to the CDs all the time. And I can't seem to get back there, number one. Number two, I can't seem to surrender. I can't live in the now. I don't know how to get to that blissful, peaceful... I know it's probably really hard to live there on a daily basis when you're involved with the whole world trying to get you out of it, and it's a strength that I have to eventually develop. But do you have any suggestions for me?
Yes, I do. I think that you have to understand that the world is crooked, it's not straight. That, again, read the Tao. I mean, I study it every day. I practice it, I live it. I feel like Lao Tzu is right there with me every day. And it's, my dear, it's hills and valleys. Einstein said that nothing happens until something moves. Mm-hmm. So everything in the universe, in the physical world, in the world of the 10,000 things, everything in the material world is movement. It's all movement, movement, movement. Even this chair is movement under a strong microscope. It's a dance, right? We all know that. We've had a physics class. All right?
So that if everything is movement, then you are a subatomic particle in a cell called humanity. You are moving as well. Now, if the world looks like this, peaks, valleys, and you're in a valley, in the Tao it says that hidden in all misfortune is fortune, good fortune. Good fortune is always hidden in misfortune. So you're in a low point in your life. Whatever that might be, however you might process it, your low point might be somebody else's high point, but you're in a low point, and you're moving. The only thing that you can do if you're moving, and if you understand the cycles, and the Tao is a lot about the cyclical nature of the universe, ups and downs, the seasons. Everything in the physical world has its seasons. There's a time for everything and everything in its time. And if you're in a valley, you have to move towards a peak. You have to. Good fortune is on its way if you're moving. Now, the same thing is true when you're in something called good fortune. You're at the peak and you're moving. You're at the top. You're moving. When you're at the top and you're moving, you're going to come out of that. And you're going to look at that. Unless you are in something that fuses the peaks and the valleys. That's called oneness. That's called God consciousness. That's called God realization. But you are a human being who is working at living God realization, but you're in a physical universe, which has ups and downs, beginnings and ends, dichotomies, opposites. They're always there. So that you must know that when you're in one of those places and you're in that state of bliss and so on, that the way you process it, you're going to find yourself down here. And then when you get down, you're going to go back up, and you begin to step outside of all of that. In A Course in Miracles, there's a line that says, it speaks about the perfect oneness. A mind at war with itself. A mind at war with itself remembers not eternal gentleness. Eternal gentleness is where you came from. Eternal, that's how the Course defines it, eternal gentleness. But when you are in a dichotomy, meaning when you're in a physical body, when you are in a relationship, when there's always a duality, and there's always a duality in the physical world. As long as you are in that duality, you're going to experience those things. And rather than judging it and saying, oh, that wasn't it because it doesn't last, nothing lasts. Nothing lasts. There's not even a now. The whole thing is a joke. There's no now. You say I can't live in the now. Give me a now. As soon as you process a now, it becomes a then.
Right.
The second that you got it, it's gone. There's no now. There's no before. There's no after. There's actually only oneness. But we are in these physical bodies, and as a physical being in a material world, you're in a crooked universe. And nothing is straight. So know that when you're in that high place, that you will leave it. And then you'll come back to it until you die.
And then you go
or die while you're alive.
Right.
You can die while you're alive. And that's what we're all trying to do. Have as much of that bliss as possible. But if you think that I'm in total state of God realization, look, there's not one great spiritual master who ever had 8 kids, all right? Or 3, all right? And same with Buddha, and same with, all of them, all right? But when you have 8 children, when you have a physical world, there's ups and there's downs. They're there all the time. They come and they go. There's sadnesses, in one moment, and there's down. And when you can step outside of all of it and just be the observer to it, you never question any of it anymore. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And what I want to talk about and make happen in this program is to have people ask the question, what would it be like to live your life as a work of art? A work of art that's in progress. That is, your life becomes a masterpiece that is unfolding in every moment of your life. Instead of looking at it in terms of how much can I get or how far can I go, begin to see that, all right, yes, I am capable of lots and lots of wonderful things, and I have accumulated a lot of things, and I've achieved at a very high level, and I'm performing very well, but I want to take a different perspective on what my life is. And I want to begin to see my life as this fabulous work of art, that I can shape it and shade it and mold it into whatever it is that I think would be the absolute ideal for my contribution while I'm here on this planet, for the actual unfolding of my humanity. And if you were to ask anybody, what is it that you would really like to have said about yourself, whose life would you look at and say, this is what I would like to have been said about me? Or this is the masterpiece that I would like my life to be. Would it be about how much stuff did I get? Or how big was my bank account? Or how fast did I run? Or how quickly did I get there? Or who did I beat in the process? For some, it might be, and that might be very satisfying. But on a much higher level than that, the answer to that question, for me, is in looking at the lives of people like Christ, who was perhaps the most influential person ever to live on our planet, ever to be on our planet. Mohammed, Buddha, spiritual masters who were leaving a message about the power of the human mind. More recently in our times, people like Gandhi, who was able to turn around the whole fate of a nation that had been subservient to an empire, the British Empire, all through a nonviolence and all through debilitating or destructive, and to literally put them on a course of running their own lives, all through simplicity and all through a sense of beauty and appreciation. Or Mother Teresa, who labors in the streets of Calcutta, just serving and just giving, and knows what she is for, and knows that she's not against anything. You see, the irony, there's a real irony in all of this, and I'm not here to put down, in any sense of the word, success and performance and achievement. I'm a person who has a lot of all of those things in my life. But I've found that those are the kinds of things that begin to matter less and less, and they show up more and more in your life when you find yourself getting more tuned into something much beyond all of that. It's like a knowingness. It's like creating a sense of what I'm here for, how I'm going to live this life that I have, and doing it in the service of others, maintaining a sense of spirituality about yourself, maintaining a sense of compassion and caring and love and decency for everyone you meet, treating conflict and difficulties that come your way not as something for which you have to win or to master, but in fact as opportunities to see how you can transcend these things and not to have to use hatred and anger and bitterness and beating somebody else down in order to get to this higher place. It's very much a place of peace, and it doesn't mean like abdicating your role in life. It doesn't mean that you can no longer be an architect or that you can't be a salesman or whatever it is that you choose to do for a living. It's much beyond that. It's the way that you are, not what you're getting out of the way that you are. It's that wonderful work of art that your life becomes, that you begin to see that I can make my life unfold exactly the way the universe unfolds, with a real sense of perfection and harmony and peace for myself. And the more I do that, the paradox is that all of the things that I chased after so hard and so diligently show up in your life just the right amounts. It's an attitude of knowing, of surrendering, not to anyone, but surrendering from the things that most of us are pursuing all of our lives, where we get on that stress-filled, fast pace. I have to achieve, I have to perform, I have to succeed, I have to become number one, I have to beat everybody else in order to self. You begin to develop an inner sense of harmony, that those kinds of things are very low-level determiners of what kind of a human being you're going to be.
This will help you to accomplish the twofold objective of removing the barriers and simultaneously allowing the power of intention to work with and through you. Become conscious of your thoughts. Every thought you have impacts you. By shifting in the middle of a weakening thought to one that strengthens, you raise your energy vibration and strengthen yourself and the immediate energy field. Make meditation a regular practice in your life. Even if it's only for a few moments each day while sitting at a stoplight, this practice is vital. Take some time to be silent and repeat the sound of God as an inner mantra. Meditation allows you to make conscious contact with your source and regain the power of intention by assisting you in cultivating a receptivity that matches up with the force of creation. Also, retreat from low-energy substances. Alcohol and virtually all artificial drugs, legal and otherwise, lower your body's energy level as well as weaken you. Furthermore, they put you in a position to continue to attract more disempowering energy into your life. Become conscious of the energy level of the music you listen to. Harsh, pounding musical vibrations with repetitive, loud sounds lower your energy level and weaken you and your ability to make conscious contact with intention. Similarly, the lyrics of hate, pain, anguish, fear, and violence are low energy, sending weakening messages to your subconscious and infiltrating your life with similar attractor energies. If you want to attract peace and love, then listen to the higher musical vibrations and lyrics that reflect these desires. Furthermore, become aware of the energy levels of your own home environment. Prayers, paintings, crystals, statues, spiritual passages, books, magazines, the colors on your walls, and even the arrangement of your furniture all create energy into which you've catapulted for at least half of your waking life. The ancient Chinese art of feng shui has been with us for thousands of years and is a gift from our ancestors, which describes ways to increase the energy field of our home and workplace. Become aware of how being in high-energy surroundings impacts us in ways that strengthen our lives and removes barriers to our connection to intention. Also, begin to reduce your exposure to the very low energy of commercial and cable television. The majority of television shows provide a steady stream of low energy most of the time. You can also enhance your energy field with photographs, believe it or not. You may find it difficult to believe that photography is a form of energy reproduction and that every photograph contains energy. See for yourself by strategically placing photographs taken in moments of happiness, love, and receptivity to spiritual help around your living quarters, in your workplace, in your automobile, and even on your clothing or in a pocket or in your wallet. Arrange photographs of nature, animals, and expressions of joy and love in your environment, and let their energy radiate into your heart and provide you with their higher frequencies. Immerse yourself in nature, appreciating its beauty, spending time camping, hiking, swimming, taking nature walks, and reveling in the natural world. Attend lectures on spirituality, take a yoga class, give or receive a massage, visit monasteries or meditation centers. Extend acts of kindness, asking for nothing in return. Anonymously extend financial aid to those less fortunate, and do it from the kindness of your heart, expecting not even a thank you. Pick up some litter and place it in a proper receptacle and tell no one about your actions. In fact, spend several hours doing nothing but cleaning and clearing out messes that you didn't create. Any act of kindness extended toward yourself, others, or your environment matches you up with the kindness inherent in the universal power of intention. It's an energizer for you and causes this kind of energy to flow back into your life. Be specific when you affirm your intentions to raise your energy level and create your desires. Written affirmations have an energy of their own and will guide you in raising your energy level. I practice this myself. There's a woman named Lynn Hall who lives up in Toronto. She sent me a beautiful plaque that I look at every day. In her letter, she says, "Here's a gift for you, written solely for you in an effort to convey heartfelt gratitude for the blessings of your presence in my life." That said, I'm sure that the sentiment is a universal one, speaking for every other soul on the planet who has experienced the same good fortune. May the light and love that you emit forever reflect back to you in joyful abundance, Dr. Dyer. And the beautiful etched-in soul plaque reads like this: Spirit has found great voice in you in vibrant truths and joyful splendor. Spirit has found revelation through you in resonant and reflective ways. Spirit has found celebration through you in infinite expanses and endless reach. To all those awakened to the grace of your gifts, Spirit has found both wings and light. I read these words daily to remind me of my connection to Spirit and to allow the words to flow from my heart to yours, fulfilling my intentions and hopefully helping you to do the same. As frequently as possible, hold thoughts of forgiveness in your mind. In muscle testing, when you hold a thought of revenge, you'll go weak, while a thought of forgiveness keeps you strong. Revenge, anger, and hatred are exceedingly low energies that keep you from matching up with the attributes of the universal force. A simple thought of forgiveness toward anyone who may have angered you in the past, without any action taken on your part, will raise you to the level of Spirit and aid you in your individual intentions. Thoreau said this. He said, if you advance confidently in the direction of your own dreams and endeavor to live the life which you have imagined, you will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. What that means is that success is not something that you can get in life. Success is an inner process Success is something that you bring to everything you do in your life. It isn't something you get out of what you do. And when you get that, and you learn how to get the junk out and advance confidently, doing what makes the most amount of sense to you based on your inner signals and the one issue of morality, which is you never interfere with anybody else's right to do the same. Each person has their own right to advance confidently in the direction of their own dreams. And when you violate that, you're violating the principle of the universe, the essence of the universe, which is cooperation and harmony. Then success will begin to chase you. And it will come into your life and arrive in your life in amounts that you never dreamt of before. That you never dreamt of. Things will start happening to you that you would never imagine before. I'm working on a book right now that's going to be called You'll See It When You Believe It. And when you start believing in some of these principles, you'll start seeing things that you were blind to for so long. When you were back here in the 2 and the 3 and the 4 and the 5, when you were moving away from yourself, as long as you're moving back towards your universal essence, your harmony with yourself, your cooperation with the rest, things will start happening in ways that you never dreamt of. Jung called it synchronicity. And it's a term that we use to explain how unexplainable coincidences sort of happen in our life. And how come these things happen? I'm going to share a couple of those with you before we leave. The quality versus appearance in your life means that you get that inner candle flame working in a way that gives you quality, independent of what other people think of you. Maslow, in defining self-actualizing, no-limit people, said they are independent of the good opinion of other people. Of the good opinion of other people. Independent of it. They're so busy advancing confidently, doing the things that make sense, and bringing success to changing their baby's diaper, and bringing success to weeding their garden, and bringing it to the job. They bring it on the airplane so that when they run into somebody who is rude to them, a stewardess that is rude, they don't see it as an attack on them. It's just where they are, and they send them love. Help them a little bit, you know. They're kind. When somebody wants to get in on the freeway, and they're one old temptation when they were on the 1 to the 6 side was to say, oh yeah, nobody's getting in front of me, I'm getting there first. It's like, they slow down a little bit. They don't have all that type A stuff of having to beat somebody else and having to defeat somebody. It's a new way of being. It's a way of quality where your harmony allows you to cooperate, and you are a part of what this whole thing is about. New way of being, quality rather than appearances. Instead of looking all your life for achievements and externals, try living your life on knowledge for the sake of knowledge. Knowledge instead of achievement. For the sake of knowledge. Being in a context in which you don't have to collect a lot of merit badges. You don't have to collect a lot of awards and other people's value judgments. That you go to school or you go out into the world or you read or whatever it is you do because it makes sense to you, not because of what somebody else is going to put on a transcript or where you're going to appear in a class list. We're in an achievement-oriented society, which tells us that we evaluate and judge a human being based upon how many achievements he has. But most of the people who get caught up in that trap and are always in this circle of trying to get ahead, trying to always get ahead, their reward for that almost always is higher blood pressure, ulcers, early deaths, and even things like cancer we're beginning to find out are related to the kinds of stresses that we have. And remember, it's a perfect universe. There's no stress in it. There's only people thinking stressful thoughts. And when you put that pressure on yourself to always achieve and get ahead of the other guy, you miss what it's really all about.
There's nothing wrong with goals. It's falling in love with them that's the problem. It's not being able to be flexible and alter them. If you have a goal to get here, to get $100,000 in the bank, to get to this promotion, to get 2 cars in your garage, to whatever it is that your goal is. And you're on your way to that, and you're always working at the goal. All of this stuff on your way to the goal is called striving, and that's what you learn, striving. And striving is a very low-level place to be. When you get to your goal, because all you've ever known is striving, you will just always suffer from this disease called more. You will just upgrade your goal to $200,000, 4 cars, and 2 houses, and another wife, and a younger one, and all of these kinds of things. If you have a goal, and you understand that every step along the way is a present moment to enjoy and to live, then the goal won't become any obsession. I don't have any goals in my life. People ask me, where are you going to be 5 years from now? What are you going to be doing? What's next for you? I remember what Lincoln said, who to me was like the greatest person who ever sat in that White House. He said, I never had a policy. He said, I just tried to do what made the greatest amount of sense each and every day of my life as I sat there as the President of the United States. And I think there's something really significant in that you don't have to get it all planned out and follow a certain pattern and do it a certain way. If you just sort of trust your inner instincts and go with that and live each moment, the goal stuff will all take care of itself. But if you're sacrificing and pushing your life aside and suffering on your way to trying to get someplace, you'll never get there. It will always elude you, because once you get there, you'll just have to upgrade it. And that's because that's all you'll know. Nowness is that purest form of sanity, living in this moment and enjoying it. And all the rest of it will sort of work its way out.
It seems to me that I have always known this, and that I came into this world knowing that you become what you think about, whether you want it or not. I was really very blessed. I lived in an orphanage until I was 10, in a series of foster homes. With my older brother, but he was sick quite a bit. He was very anemic, and I used to have to help him as a young boy. He was 16 months older than I was, and this was when I was 4, 5, 6, and 7, and so on. I can remember whenever a new child would come to the house, they would always say, "Go find Wayne." And I would be out in the back. They had orchards there, and this was no hardship. This was no difficult thing for me. This was a great blessing, I think, in my life. Those earliest days. And I can remember a girl named Martha came, and they were dropping her off for basically the same reasons that we were dropped off there. And they said, "Go find Wayne." And I came and I started talking to Martha, and she was crying, and she was all upset, and she was sad, and I was trying to convince her that she didn't have to be sad, that this was, and I remember saying to her, "This is a great place. There's no parents here. You can do pretty much anything that you want. I mean, you've got a lot of freedom, and we're going to have a great time." And I can remember being in school, at the public school. It was a numbered school. They didn't even name them in that day. It was PS number 127. And one time, we were out on the playground, and all the kids were all upset, and I said, "What's wrong?" And they said, "Well, the teacher said this is the worst class that she ever had," and she was so all upset, and she was angry, and she was hurt, and I said, "Well, why would you allow her opinions to have anything to, if this is her hardest day, then her life is just easy, and I can remember talking to other people about, all you have to do is change the way you think. And it goes from being a miserable experience or a tough experience or a hard experience to one that you can do anything that you want with. And when my mother got our family all back together again when I was nine, almost 10 years old. And I can remember her telling me what it was like when I was just a baby, when I was just like an infant, that I was the one child that could make everybody else laugh. At times when everybody else would. She said we were waiting for a bus one time when we were just real babies before I went into the orphanage, and she said a car came by, and it was in Detroit, and there was all this slush, and we all went flying down. Everybody had dirt on them and dirty snow, and we were laying in the ground, and everybody was crying. And she said, "You were and upset and mad because our clothes were wet and so on." And she said, "You just stood up and said, this is great. Isn't this wonderful? Look, we don't have to do this, and we don't, just turning it into something positive." It's like, so the ability to be able to do that was something, I can't remember a time in my life when I didn't know that if I really went to work on how I thought, that things just didn't have to be bad. I was the richest kid in the orphanage. I've talked about that many times in my lectures. That a snowstorm was a time we had two snow shovels at the home, and one of them had the edges all curled up from hitting the curbs, and you couldn't make any money with that one. So the other one, when it would snow, I would go downstairs and I would take the good snow shovel and I would put it under my bed and I'd sleep with it right with me in the bed so that nobody else would get it. And I would get up before everybody else got up and I would go out and I would just shovel everybody else's snow, shovel their walk. And then later on, I'd just go knock on the door and just tell them that I shoveled their walk. And some would say thank you, and some would give me a dime, which doesn't sound like much, but that's about $3,000 in today's money. And when I found out that soda pop bottles, for example, were worth 2 cents each, that if you took them back, you could get 2 cents back, that was just like one of the great awarenesses and awakenings of my life, because I would follow people around who were drinking a Coca-Cola and say, you almost done with that? They said, well, no, I'm not going. Well, just whenever you're ready. I just followed them and said, we'll walk until, and we had a coal bin where we lived because it was coal furnaces, and we filled that coal bin with soda pop bottles, and I would take it back. It was just always easy to change, and all the other kids would be not having any money and complaining about not being able to have abundance or be able to have some level of being able to buy themselves like just a little donut or a Pepsi Cola or something. They couldn't figure it out. And it always seemed so easy to me that all you had to do was just look around and see the opportunities in anything. And it had nothing to do with whether there are opportunities there. There always are opportunities. You know, I'm 67 years old. I have never, ever been unemployed or even can't even deal with the concept of unemployment. It isn't that I've had no job. I've always had more jobs than and it isn't because I've been through all good economic times. There've been some pretty sour economic times over the last 50 years or so. I just have never known how to think any other way than, if you change the way you think about things, you can create whatever it is you want for yourself in your life. It's just a simple knowing. I mean, I've made a living talking about it. I've written lots of books about it and so on, but I have always lived it and practiced it, and I still do today.